Now can you hear me? Okay, I think now you can hear me. Okay, there was some problem. Yes, Shakti. Okay, thank you, Shakti. There was some problem. So again, we are going to start with the video. Okay, today we are going to start with the same chapter, part B, source of business finance. Source of business finance. We are going to start. What I told you, what is known as source of business, in another word, if we are going to say, the source of business finance is the blood of business. What it is? It is a blood of business, as we require blood in our body to run the body properly. So to run the business, what is the main important thing? Is a finance. Now, from where we get the finance? We get in a two part, that is refers to capital fund and credit funds. That refers to a capital fund and credit funds. What is capital fund? Which we invest, and what is a credit fund? Which we take from the outside. That is the credit funds. Okay. Now, how we are going to study this finance in this chapter? With this definition, you can see business finance may be defined as planning, raising, managing and controlling all the money unused or capital funds of any kind used in connection with business. I told you that the finance, that how finance will be brought up into the company, whether how much we should invest in a company, how much finance we should bring for the capital, for the assets, for other raw materials, that is also an assets, and how much liabilities we should borrow, that all these are the are the part of planning. Okay, now from planning we are going to do the managing part. From the managing, how, if you are bringing that type of money, and now how this money is going to be invested to the different parts. Okay, that different parts can be into the investment part, it can be in the goods, making of productions, how and how much to be invested, that is the planning part, and how and that action will take, that is the managing part. Okay, now controlling is what? When we are planning and managing according to the planning, and what we are doing actually, that actually what we have planned, we will see to it, and we will refer that whether that controlling, that planning is going according to the things which we are doing, is it actually what we have planned and actually what is happening. That is the part of controlling. That is the part of controlling. So it is very important to know what is the meaning of planning, raising, managing and controlling of the business finance. Okay, now, okay, all of you, good afternoon. Okay, I have just wished you a good afternoon before you all have come. So I'm just going to explain you this chapter very briefly. So this is a very, very important chapter for your accountancy, for your BST, for your class 12 BST. Everything is very, very important. This chapter is okay. So do study this chapter very nicely. In a depth of the chapter you have to study, and do go on writing the notes. Please keep your books with yourself, so that whatever I tell you to mark, please mark it. Okay, students. Now, the part we are coming over here, that is nature and significance of business finance. Nature and significance of business finance. What is the nature and the significance? Why we require the business finance? Why we require to start the business? While starting the business, to have a day-to-day operationals, day-to-day expenses, to meet the day-to-day, to meet the working capital requirement. When production process is lengthy, working capital means like labor, payment of everything, production, buying the things of the production, everything we are going to take for the part of working capital. The finance, the growth and expansion projects of company, we need to fixed capital. Okay, adequate finance provides the following benefits to the business concern. The first is, what is an adequate finance? Means a proper finance which will make us to have to come with a future liabilities, to come with the future. If we have a sufficient finance in our business, we will not face any problems. Okay, we can meet up the upcoming liabilities. You all have come to know what is the meaning of liabilities till now, because we are in the second part of the accountancy. We have completed our first part of accountancy. So you all have been coming to know this time what is assets, liabilities. The firm can meet liabilities on time. The firm can carry its business smoothly, means for running the smooth business, for meeting the unknown liabilities, for using a latest technology and innovation methods. The firm can make use of business opportunities. What is the business opportunities? To invest in some project. That is a business opportunities. Okay. Now the firm can face competitions more strongly. How can the firm can face a competition more strongly? By diversifying its business. And how they will if they have a adequate money, then only they can diversify the business. Okay. The firm can replace its assets and machinery whenever necessary. Obviously, if the machineries, I know machineries are for a long time, but if it is an old technology, so we have to remove the outdated technology to the upcoming technology machines. So if a firm is having an adequate finance, then it can use a latest technology machines. Okay, like you have seen in mobile phones and all, Apples and all, why they are creating an update software every time? Because they are having an adequate money and adequate software. That's why they are investing in a large softwares, and in 2-3 months you can see the phones are getting updated because of having a latest technologies. Okay, the firm can face recession and depressions period of a trade cycle. What is recession and depression period? You all know what is the recession and depression period. What is the recession? The outflow of the money, the inflow and out of the flow of the money, when there will be, sometimes there is a lack of money, sometimes there is a lack of productions of things. That is recession and depressions. Okay. Now coming to the very important part, source of finance on the basis of ownership. Now, suppose if I am going to start a business, suppose you are going to start a business, then if you have a 10 lakh rupees, if you have a 10 lakh rupees and your business starting up capital will be required of 10 lakh. So are you going to invest whole of your 10 lakh with yourself, with your business while you are starting the business? No, you will not. You will not invest the whole of 10 lakh to your business. Why? Because if you are going to spend the whole of your 10 lakh to your own business, starting a business, then no money will be left over to meet the other liabilities or day-to-day expenses. So what you will do, if you are a good businessman, you will invest either 50% or 60% of your own fund, and from, suppose you can invest 7 lakh and rest of the 3 lakhs can be borrowed from the outside. Like many banks are giving loans, many angel investors are there who are giving loans. Who are the angel investors? Like friends and relatives, that they are called as angel investors. Or many outside ventures are giving loans. Ventures are what? Like Muthoot funds and all, that are ventures. Okay, so these are the type of borrowed fund, means which we collect from outside. If I give you example of Reliance company, if I give you example of a Reliance company, I know the main capital has been invested by Mukesh Ambani. Okay, if I will ask you who is the owner, why he is the owner? Because he is having more than 51% of share with himself. Okay, so that's why he is the owner of the business. But the company is known by the name of the Reliance Jio. Why? Because there are other members who are holding the shares of the business. They are the other men. Why they are holding a business? Because Mukesh Ambani has not invested the whole money into the company of Reliance Jio. He has sold the share to the other persons outside and got the capital. In return of that, he has got the capital. In return of that, he has got the capital, cash. It can be in cash, it can be in kind. Okay. So in return of that, he has got a capital. So that is a borrowed fund. That is a borrowed fund and owner's fund. Coming into the detail, depth, what is borrowed fund and what is owner's fund. Okay. Now, owner's fund refers to the fund contributed by the owner as well as accumulated profits of the company. This fund remains with the company and it has no liability to return the funds. For example, equity shares, retained earnings. Okay. Owner's funds, equity share. Now, what is equity share? If you have a copy, you can write shares bought by the outsiders of the public, a company share which is bought by the outsider of the public, but they will only get the profit. When the company will have a profit, they will be equalized given to the profit. They will be equalized given to the profit according to the shares. According to the shares. So that is known as equity shares. Okay. They are buying the shares and in return they are not getting interest. They are not getting interest, they will get profits. If the company is having profit, they will get profit. If a company is having loss, they will also suffer loss. So that is, and retained earning. What is retained earning? The profits which has been saved, that is also a retained earning. Okay. Now, main features of owner's fund. Number one is source of permanent capital. Number one is source of permanent capital. What is the source of permanent capital? The owner funds remains permanently invested in the business. It is not refundable like loan or borrowed fund. A large part of owner's fund used acquiring fixed asset. The type of finance available for all purpose throughout the life is called source of permanent capital. So, permanent capital which has been invested by the owner, which shares cannot be sold or which are not likely to be refunded, like loan. उसमें कोई liability, there is no liability, then it is known as permanent capital. Okay, that is a permanent capital. Then coming to provision of risk capital. Provision of risk capital. What is provision of risk capital? All the losses which will be meant by the company, who will be borrowing, who will be facing that losses? The owners of the company, or those are the equity shares. Let us read. The owner fund is also known as the risk capital of the business. As return on this capital depends upon the rate of earning of the company. In case company is incurring loss, then it is not compulsory to pay any return on owner's fund. If loss continues, owners may be unable to recover even the original investment. In times of prosperity, high level of return is given on owner's fund. The return on owner's fund varies with the profit earning of the company. That is why it is called a risky capital. That is why it is called a risky capital. Obviously, the things which we are investing from our own pocket, nobody is going to return us. If we are going to have a loss in the company, nobody, we will be the only liable person. We will be only the liable person. So we will be facing the provision of risk capital. Okay, we are investing, so all the losses we will be only bearing. No security required. Obviously, our own fund, we don't require any security. We don't have to give anything against our capital. Source of owner funds. That is, I have told you, the owner fund company, share capital, retained earning, accumulated profits. What are that? Share capitals. In market you have seen now, there are lots of shares, and a lot of shares are being, stock market you have heard, shares are the company shares which has been divided into a small parts to the public, to, like suppose a company is required of 100 crore, so company is going to issue 100 shares, 1000 shares at the rate rupees 100, 1000 shares at the rate of rupees 100. If person wants, he can buy 2 shares, he can buy 3 shares, but 1 share will cost him 100 rupees. So that is only the shares, that is only the share capital. Okay, so when you are buying the company shares, you are becoming the owner of the company, but company, there are lots of people who will, 1000 people will be buying the shares, then 1000 people name we cannot adjust in the company. So for that we write shareholders. What we write? In the name of the individual we write shareholders. And what are the retained earnings? The profit which has been saved for meeting the future liabilities, that are retained earning. Do write, I am telling you very slowly, do go on writing profits which are made for future, profits which are saved for future liabilities, that are retained earnings. What is accumulated profits? That is the same thing. I have told you what is accumulated profits. Okay, like general reserves, workman compensation reserve, investment fluctuation reserves, and employee provident fund reserve. These are the accumulated profits and loss account. Okay, coming to the second part, that is, I hope owner's fund is clear. What are the 3? Permanent capital, risk on the capital, no security, source of owner's fund. Only 4 points. What is that? Permanent capital, risk on the capital, no security, source of owner fund, from where we get the owner's capital. Okay, so hope this part is very clear. Is it? Any question is there for owner's fund, students? Any question is there for owner's fund? I hope you have understood very clearly. मेरे खुद का पैसा जो हम लोग क्रिएट करते हैं, चाहे वो, लेकिन ओनर्स, there are 2 types of shares, equity shares and preference shares. Equity shares will come, right, equity shares will come on owner's fund. Equity shares will come on owner's fund. Okay, preference share will come on borrowed fund. Preference shares will come on borrowed fund. Do go on writing. Okay, Shakti, thank you, you have answered my question. Okay, now coming to borrowed fund. Borrowed fund is, you all know, दे दे बाबा, पैसा दे दे, कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट कर दे, that is only borrowed fund. ठीक है, बट ये दे दे बाबा कभी कभी बहुत महंगा पड़ता है, क्योंकि ये हम लोग की लायबिलिटी हो जाती है. ये हम लोग को एनी हाउ वी हैव टू रिटर्न इट in terms of interest also, in terms of principal amount also. You have already studied what is the return in principal amount. Okay, in terms of interest also, whether a company borrowed fund is a huge risk, whether a company is having a profit or loss, it will be returned. Whether a company is having a profit or loss, it should be returned. Okay, so it is you can say over here, you can underline the share capital, retained earning, and you can write over here equity share. Here we can write preference share. Borrowed fund refers the borrowing of the firm. It includes all funds availability by the way of loans and credit. By the way of underline loans and credit. Now, what are the features of borrowed fund? Fixed time, security, regular payment of interest, control, source of borrowed fund. I have told you of in the definition of borrowed fund only that if it is a preference share or loans on credit, when you take a loan from the bank, you have to give it an interest on the fixed time. The borrowed fund raised by the business for the firm on a specified periods. These funds may be raised for short term, medium term and long term. Okay, whether you are buying loan, whether you are taking loan for short term or medium term or a long term, you have to return it. You have to return it in a time. Okay, security, obviously, if you are taking loan, in return of that, you have to mortgage something, you have to keep an asset or something you have to give, that only the banks or other providers will give you the security, then only they will give you the loan. You have to keep the security against the loan, against the fund you are borrowed fund against the security of assets. Okay, regular payment of interest, whether a company is having a profit or loss, you have to pay it on the interest. You have to pay amount of interest on borrowed fund, regular payment. Okay, principal amount also has to be paid. I have already told you these things. Principal's amount have already to be paid within a fixed period of time. Okay, now controls. The borrowed fund security holder do not get any right. Over here, one point you can write over here, controls. One point you can write over here, controls. All the share holders can have controls on the decision of the business. For example, board of directors. Okay, now control. The borrowed fund security holder do not get, over here you underline, security holders do not get right to control and manage the activities of the business firm. It is the owner's fund, so he has already controlled in managing decisions. They don't have. Whether they have given us loan or not, we will pay them interest, but they don't have any control on the decisions. Okay, you can write in 2 words, as they have given us the loan, but they will have no control on the managing activities because we are paying them interest in return. Okay, now sources of borrowed fund. What are the sources? Are debentures, loan from commercial banks, loan from financial institution, public deposits, incorporation deposits, trade credit, etc. Okay, debentures are also a share buyer, but in return of that they will not earn profit. They will be given interest as well as profit also. Loans from commercial banks. They give loans, okay, in terms of securities. Loan from financial institutions, you all know what from the ICICI banks and all, they are for financial. Public deposits from outside. If you give outside, there are many public deposits who give the loans. Okay, like if you can in terms of LIC loan, fixed deposit loans, these are known as public deposits. Intercorporate deposits, trade credit, etc. Okay, thank you students. For today we will do only this much. Okay, owners, I hope you have understood these 2 topics. Source of business finance are 2 types of business finance, owners funds and borrowed fund. Just you need to learn these examples very nicely. These examples are very, very important. Okay, any questions? I am ending up the class. Do you have any questions, students? Okay, have you understood the topic very clearly? No question. Okay, thank you Dipanshu. Okay, now I am ending up the class, today's class. I am ending up the today's class. So tomorrow, soon we will meet again tomorrow. Thank you students. Okay.